So, David, thank you for being our last castaway of the current season. I don't think there's another Desert Island Discs until way after Easter, I don't think. So you're our last victim for the next little while. So thank you kindly for joining us. Do you want to start us off just by telling us about your life in 1 minute?
I live in Belfast with my dad and my sister, who you'll have seen about church, and trying to follow Jesus. Not doing it very well, but still trying.
Do you date that to a particular moment, or is it a brought up in church kind of a story?
It's a bit of both. There was a moment when I was kind of very small, and I thought, actually, what I could see that my parents had, I thought, yes, I want that as well. But it's kind of always been there. And
work life?
Work, I normally tell people that I annoy sick people for Belfast City Council. I work for an HR team there.
And that's been mostly working from home for the last...
Still largely working from home.
Is it? Right, okay. Is that starting to pale, the appeal of working from home?
Oh, the appeal from working from home has gone a long time ago. I mean, yeah, it's far too easy to form bad habits at home. Far too easy to form bad habits. But there's also that thing of sometimes, well, it's nice to not be, stuck in a room with 100 other people. There is that time of sometimes you just want to ask somebody a question. Mm-hmm. You think, I can't put this in an email. This is too stupid a question for an email.
You feel like you're getting more done. Like I've heard loads of people say, I am so productive at home, rather than, or is it the other way around? Like it just
very much the other way around. Far too form bad habits, and far too easy to think about things rather than actually just get on and do it. You think, how am I going to do this? And
I was going to say, tell us about sort of your involvement with church, but then we tend to stick you behind a computer quite a lot in church as well.
Yeah, no, I would much rather be hiding, or indeed in a pew worshipping is a nice place to be. But yes, I do a lot of technical stuff. It's something I've kind of been interested in for a long time.
And you are, I have heard your name invoked many times in your absence. Like, oh, David will know how to do that.
Oh dear.
Yes, I do.
I'm quite often absent. So I've got a terrible habit of sleeping in these days.
Yeah, that's right. So yes, it's a disaster until you turn up.
So you're able to stay calm. This is me thinking about this morning. Do you have the ability to stay calm when because tech lets you down quite often? So can you do that sort of, it'll be fine?
Just years of practice, of not panicking. You think, oh, okay, what's the worst that can happen?
Am I right in saying that a lot of your tech kind of training has been Summer Madness?
Yes, that's probably the place I've done most of it since I left school, and certainly where it kind of took a sideways move from more of the noises into the pictures. And yeah, it's good fun. Something I still enjoy doing.
And a great boot camp, I would imagine, for pretty much any disaster that can happen, a technological system.
There's all sorts of things can happen there.
Tell us about your worst Summer Madness technological meltdown.
My worst, or the worst, there was one where we had people laying hands on a piece of equipment to get it to work. Again, that happened. It did work.
Yes.
That's
really
that's what I should have done this morning.
There we
go. Yeah, it's changing the batteries. Such a secular response to the problem. So the reason I asked that question is that I'm wondering if your song choice is kind of a Summer Madness story. So do you want to tell us what the song is?
The song is called We Are Blessed. It's by a guy called Andy Flanagan, who has got links to Summer Madness.
Bring heaven to earth, Lord. Bring peace where there's fear. Bring life where there's death, Lord. Bring joy in these tears.
It's not where I heard the song, although I did once hear him speak at a seminar at Summer Madness on this subject, and that's the idea that one thing he said in that seminar was when you read, I think it's Revelation 20, God says, I am making all things new. He doesn't say I will make or I have made. It's, I am making. And if we want to be about what God is about, then we should also be trying to remake the world.
Kingdom come. We are blessed to bless our world in pieces.
And am I right in saying, has it been used by different charities, or it's when I was kind of looking for examples of it on YouTube, it always seemed to be in the background of like a Tear Fund video or something like that?
Very likely. I know he's done a lot of work with Tear Fund. So yeah, I think Tear Fund have definitely used it.
Okay, and it has that kind of sense of, you know, like we're the hands and feet of God to kind of remake the world.
That's it.
And I love the line, is it we are invited to partner with you?
Partner with you, yeah.
Is partner with you, was that the line?
Yeah.
That's lovely.
Yes, I think that's very much how I would read the Genesis story, is that God wants us to work with, you know, it's almost like creation isn't finished. When he puts them in the garden and says, now do things with this garden, do things with these plants and these animals, it's almost like, you know, I've started it, now you finish the job.
That's a lovely thought.
I kind of think that's how God works. Like, you know, God could just sort this all out. God could just do it all himself, but for some reason he chooses to use us. Do you ever think that or pray that and think, well, why are you asking me to do this? But yeah, but that seems to be God's way.
We are blessed to bless our world in pieces. We are loved to love where love is not. Hey.
Are we allowed to do this from Desert Island Discs, to say maybe that could be entered into the possibility of being sung congregationally in Beaver at some point? Good stuff. Right, shall we move on from song to book? Right, tell us your Desert Island book.
The book, I think I suggested 2 books to you, and they are both books I had to read for my GCSE in English, and both of them had quite a big, I haven't read them since. I don't own copies of them. I've read them once, but they both had quite a big impact on the way I think about the world. And one of them was To Kill a Mockingbird, which I know you've already covered with Helen. And the other one was the play An Inspector Calls, where this very wealthy family are having a celebratory dinner when a policeman comes to the door and tells them that a woman has just been admitted to hospital. And it turns out, I'm not going to spoil the end, but over the course of the play, it turns out that they all know her and have all interacted with her. And by the course of kind of little acts of unpleasantness, little acts of evil, sin, I suppose you could call it, they have ended up harming this woman in quite a profound way.
So it's kind of like Agatha Christie, but with a more moral
or something.
Yeah.
This is our first play. Isn't this the first play we've had on the island? Wow.
Have you ever seen it performed, or did you have to just read
I
the book?
have. I saw an amateur production in Armagh, and unfortunately, I don't think the cast were having a particularly good night. But so it wasn't the best production. I'm sure they had other better nights. But it was still a very good experience. Yeah.
Again, without completely spoiling the plot, so presumably then all of these different characters who have had all these different interactions with the lady. So like, what kind of thing have they done?
I believe one of them got her sacked because she disliked the way she'd looked at her when she was serving behind the counter in a shop, except actually she'd been in a bad mood anyway and just wanted to blame somebody else. Another one had her sacked from another job. One of them had, not sure if I can say that. Yes, I can. One of them had left her with a child that she, and then another one had refused her any kind of charitable support. You know, was in a position to help and didn't, and just, you know, it was just little thing after little thing after little thing, but it all added up to quite a desperate situation,
So-
and all of are quite small things.
Mm.
Or small. Am I right in now? So I haven't read it or seen it, so everything
Okay.
you tell me, you can tell me anything about it. But am I right in detecting then that it's a sort of there's a bit of a kind of class thing or a wealth thing going on?
Oh, very much so.
Are very rich people who've been kind of almost kind of casually nasty towards a poor person without realizing how much damage that can do. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
There's very much a wealth element to it.
And isn't that amazing that affected you and you remember it, but you don't like reread it all the time, or you don't have a copy of it, but you
No,
still
yeah,
remember it? Yeah.
I think so. There must have been something about just that period in my life that those two books have been some of the books that have had the kind of most impact on how I think about the world.
Okay. So what was the impact that an inspector calls? What do you think that what stuck?
I think it is that thing about you don't know what impact you're going to have on somebody else. You don't know what you could do to them. You don't know what either, if you can choose between kind of those little acts of cruelty or nastiness or whatever, or choose between kindness, try and choose kindness.
Yeah.
Don't always manage it. I'm not terribly good at it, but that's the idea anyway.
Yeah. Yes. Because it's almost, you think, is it almost easier sometimes to, we all have probably found that we've said something and it hurt somebody and we didn't even think it was going to be hurtful. So it's really easy to for the impact you have on someone to be a negative impact. That seems to almost happen accidentally without us really meaning it in a nasty way. And then sometimes it is meant in a nasty way, and that's even worse. But it almost as if those little impacts that we have on others' lives it's easier for them to be negative than positive.
I don't know about easier, but yeah, you're right. It's very easy to upset people accidentally, never mind deliberately. But I think sometimes it's just a thing of thinking, okay, if that was me, how would I want somebody to react?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What would I want? Let's try and do that.
Yeah, good question. Yeah.
And is there, again, without spoiling the end, is it kind of quite a dark play then about all of these people realizing the damage they've done, or is there glimmers of hope and light in it?
The tension kind of at the end of the play is between people who kind of realize what they've done and people who think that actually, well, we might have got away with that and it doesn't matter, and haven't realized that whether or not you've got away with it, it doesn't change the fact that you could well have seriously harmed somebody. Whether you have actually harmed somebody or not doesn't change the fact that you could have. You might well have. The key line is, but all those things were true. It doesn't. I'm really trying not to spoil it here, but it doesn't matter whether it's exactly as the policeman described it or not.
Yeah.
All of the things we said, all the things we confessed to were true.
Yeah.
It could have happened.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that line.
Yeah.
It's all true.
Yeah.
That's quite haunting. Yeah.
This sounds like I love the way you still remember a line of it, because you had to drill it into your brain for a GCSE coursework.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Learn your lines.
That as well.
The idea that something like that can have an impact on you that outlasts long years.
I mean, that's half my life ago now.
Yeah. So To Kill a Mockingbird, you had split your vote two ways. What would you say was the difference that it made, or what was the kind of lesson you learned, or the thing that impacted you about it?
Well, it's a kind of mirror image, isn't it? Of it's more about seeing the good in everyone, and that's and this is an idea that might come up again later as well. But it's the idea that there's a bit of good in everyone, there's a bit of God in everyone, I suppose, although it's not explicitly in the book.
Yeah, I never thought of that being a kind of a mirror image. I love that kind of.
No, I'd never thought of it until this week when you asked me to think of books. And I went,
Good old Desert Island Discs brings it all to the surface.
Perfect.
So if they're both about the impact you can make on the world for good or for ill, and that kind of ties in really well with the song as well. That
It does, actually.
working in
Working.
partnership with God. Blessing the world with your actions. So right, if we go on to the movie now, I don't know if this is going to be a sudden lurch to a completely different topic, because this is an unusual choice. When your message came in, I thought, oh, I knew David Murphy would choose at least one really weird thing.
You're supposed to keep your
I did mention some other movies in the message as well. I
Yes.
kind of wish I had chosen Paddington now, but anyway.
Really?
Okay,
Oh,
right, okay.
Paddington.
So yes, you can give your you had four alternates, which were
I did, but they were obviously the two Paddington movies and the two Shrek movies, and there's a theme in all of those that we might and in this one as well. There's a common theme.
oh, interesting. Right, okay. So the
We've
common
talked
theme
about as
between
well.
Shrek and
I
Paddington
hadn't.
and
No, it only occurred to me today that there's a theme.
okay,
Other than they're
right,
all very
Okay.
funny.
right. But yes,
Intriguing.
tell us your number one choice. What was the movie that you went for?
I ended up choosing Four Lions, which is it's a comedy about suicide bombers. There's no way around that.
No way to soft soap it.
Which what could possibly go right here when we're talking about this? There's loads of ways this could go wrong. But the key point, and I think we've just talked about common humanity and choosing good and all that. The key message of those Paddington movies is just because he's a bear from Peru doesn't mean he can't fit in, can't become part of a family in London. The Shrek movies, just because he's a monster doesn't mean he's not. And there was a film critic when Four Lions came out said the key message of this film is just because they're doing something monstrous doesn't mean they're monsters and doesn't mean they're not idiots, which is
Oh, wow, that's brilliant.
that
Praise.
thing of
Yeah.
it's that common humanity thing again.
Yeah. Give us the gist of the plot of Four Lions.
First thing to say is that it's very funny. It's about the kind of mundanity of their lives, their everyday life. One guy in particular, and it's the idea that these are still human beings. These are people who, just because they've chosen to do something terrible, but they still have something good about them. They could have made a different choice.
Yes,
Which is
that's really interesting. Yeah.
That's an interesting thing. The other thing is it's about bad theology. It's hinted the whole way through that none of them is particularly devout, in various ways. And I think that we've all got to be very careful of not deciding on the things we already think and then deciding that God definitely agrees with us.
Okay. Wow. Interesting.
Oh,
yeah.
that's quite deep. Yeah.
Mhm.
Should Christians who are working in our planning departments, not our council planning committees, should they be taking a stand against open plan buildings? Because Jesus is very clear that my Father's house has many rooms. Often we take something we already think, that is something I already think, and then try and find the biblical justification for it. And we've got to be very careful not to do that as well, I think.
Or just assume, even if you can't find a biblical justification for it, just assume that you're doing it in the name of God and
that's
that God wants you to do
interesting.
it, just because it's the thing that you think and the thing that,
Yeah,
that's
see
brilliant.
that a lot.
I've got a clip of Chris Morris, who was the director of Four Lions, and kind of addressing that same question that you were. Obviously, he comes in for a lot of flack of saying, how dare you make this movie? This is a terrible subject matter, especially for a comedy movie. Obviously, people would think, oh, well, this is a subject matter for deep seriousness. And to have this kind of savagely funny film about these slightly bumbling guys who are trying to plan this attack, he's got a lot of flack for it. So I just find his kind of justification absolutely fascinating.
Why make a comedy on this subject? It's not a gratuitous whim. It came from real life. There was a case of a group of Yemeni jihadis who wanted to blow up a US warship by ramming it with an exploding boat. They assembled their launch at 3 a.m. They put it in the water, filled it with explosives, and it sank. And at that point I thought, who spoke first and what did they say? And I sort of moved on, didn't really think any more about it, but kept coming across examples like the architect of the 9/11 attacks, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, wasting 2 hours before a TV interview looking for a costume that didn't make him look fat. And this rather broke apart the sort of pristine mineral image of a mastermind of evil that we tend to get from the news media. There was a Canadian cell that wanted to assassinate the Canadian Prime Minister until they forgot who he was. They built a remote-controlled detonator to protect themselves from the effect of their own explosions. They had a range of 10 feet. And so the examples went on, whether I spoke to Muslims or intelligence analysts who call what I was discovering the bunch of guys theory. Basically, a jihadi cell operates like any other bunch of blokes. If you find a five-a-side football team, people trying to organise a stag weekend, there will be arguments, there'll be disagreements, there'll be a group bond, but things will not end up perfectly. And why should this phenomenon take a polite sidestep around a jihadi cell? Of course it doesn't. So in real life, we were finding funny things which were missing from the narrative that we tend to get.
Yeah, it is, a very funny film. I think that's, kind of the main reason I picked it, and then to actually know there is something. There's something in it.
And there's something in dark humor, especially something, people call it black humor or dark humor, but there's something that helps us process pain or fear or something that maybe Northern Irish people especially laugh, something that hurts. So there's something I quite like dark humor for that.
Yeah,
it works, I think.
And there's also the, he put it brilliantly in that interview. Was it the way it bursts the bubble of the pristine image of the mastermind of evil, to think that these people are fallible and clumsy and bumbling, and that idea that that basically that's most of the humor of the film. This is a scene of the group are trying to transport, is it bombs, David? Can you remember, in the plastic bags?
It's certainly explosive.
Yes, they've got all of their explosives, all their kind of ingredients for their bombs. But as they're driving along, the car breaks down, and they're forced to do the last little bit of the journey with this terrifying amount of explosive material just in these plastic Tesco's bags.
Right, one jolt and this stuff could go, right? So you've got to run smooth, right? But you've got to run fast, but you've got to run smooth, right? Like this, right? Just fast but slow. Yeah. Smooth.
Right, everybody get off the road. Nobody say anything. Anybody talks, I'm going to make them jump up and down till they go bang. Right? Just keep your mouth shut, let me deal with this. All right?
All right.
Hey, man.
Easy.
How's it going? Yeah. Well, nice little one pack you got going on there, bro.
Yeah, I had a pint of sauce, Omar.
Well, you managed to run a mile yet without stopping for a milkshake?
Mate, that's 12 miles, Mr.
Oh, really?
All right, lads.
All right.
What's with bags?
Shopping?
Mate,
just toys.
Chicken. Yeah.
We're about to go play football.
Yeah?
We should grab all this kit and head down there to the pitch, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, bro. Yeah? Right, see you in a bit, man.
Yeah. Hey, lads! Wait, look, you forgot this! Ah! What's that?
That bag's full of really fragile boots. Right.
Are they all right?
What? Yeah. That's just thigh exercise, isn't it?
What?
Quad squats. Squat jogs. Just... It's for the marathon. I thought you'd know.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Squat jogs?
Yeah. All right, man. I'll see you in a bit. All right.
Squat jogs, yeah?
Yeah.
Down.
A bit lower.
Safeties, mate!
All right, man.
Take care, man.
Yeah.
So do you agree with that sort of, what was it he called it, the bunch of blokes effect?
Oh yeah. No, I think that's definitely what that film's, or kind of what it's about. The idea of, I go back to that. Doesn't mean they're monsters, and doesn't mean they're not idiots.
So is there a reason? Do you think there's a reason why that film then leapt to the absolute top of the pile?
Apart from having a twisted sense of humor, you mean?
I mean, that's a reason.
That may well be it. Yeah, I think there is that element of what it says about bad theology, about trying to make co-opt God, saying God definitely agrees with me when in fact we're basing that on absolutely nothing, but also that idea of this thing that seems to be running through, that everybody has some good in them. Everybody, we're all human beings, and we're all, which is not to say, the church has talked a lot over the years about sin and original sin, and the idea that we're all sinners, and that's absolutely true and absolutely important and absolutely right that we talk about that. But I think sometimes we've underplayed the flip side of that, which is that if everybody is made in the image of God, even if it's hard to see that image, even if that image has been smeared or crumpled up or in any way, if everybody is made in the image of God, then everybody, even the absolute worst people you can think of, have in them some goodness and some love. And I suppose again, it's up to what we choose to do with that. Whether we choose to, which of those two instincts we choose to give into. I'm absolutely not claiming to be particularly good at making the right choice, but there is a choice to be made.
Yeah.
And I think that's a choice that everyone can make.
Yeah.
And obviously those characters there have made the wrong one. That probably doesn't need to be said that terrorism is making the wrong choice, but they have absolutely made the wrong choice.
Yeah.
But there's still something good about those characters, if only they would listen to it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And isn't
similar.
that to spoil the end a little bit? Don't they find as they go through that some of them can't bring themselves to go through with the operation? That's just, and it's that exact thing that you're talking about at a point, no matter how deeply they've got themselves caught up in bad theology and just a bad situation, they actually they can't bring themselves to go through with it, and that little glimmer starts to shine. Good choice. Good choice. And like I say, I just knew you'd have and to say that it's a film basically with the same message as Paddington and Shrek, I love that. I'm sure the makers of Paddington and Shrek would be delighted to hear that. Right then, let's bring it to a close with your chosen verse. You've been very cheeky and chosen multiple books and films and now a whole book of the Bible rather than one little verse. Yeah. So tell us about your choice.
I've picked Psalm 34, which became really very important to me a few years ago when my mum got sick. And the night that she went to get checked out for something that was probably not a heart attack, and you think, hold on, what do you mean probably not a heart attack? With her professional background, she could diagnose a heart attack. You're thinking, so what do you mean this is probably not a heart? What are you talking about? And in that confusion, I ended up here in the house by myself for a while because I had to get up for work. So I went home to go to bed and decided I was going to pray and didn't have the words. So I picked up the guitar and started singing other people's words. I think that's why we have hymn books and prayer books, is that sometimes you need somebody else's words. And having sung all those everything's going to be all right songs for a while, I found myself bouncing between a couple of chords, and suddenly out of my mouth came that phrase about tasting and seeing that God is good. And even as I'm praying something, where is this coming from? This is it's good stuff, but this is not what I wanted to pray. I want to pray everything's going to be all right, not just God is good.
Yeah.
And actually as that went on and as it's developed and as it wasn't all right, actually, that was what I ended up holding on to, was that God is good. And as I read the whole psalm, I found actually there's an awful lot in there that is about how good God is. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. My soul makes its boast in the Lord. Let the humble hear and be glad. O magnify the Lord with me. Let us exalt his name together. I sought the Lord and he answered me and delivered me from my fears. Look to him and be radiant, so your faces shall never be ashamed. This poor soul cried and was heard by the Lord and was saved from every trouble. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him and delivers them. O taste and see that the Lord is good. Happy are those who take refuge in him. O fear the Lord, you his holy ones, for those who fear him have no want. The young lions suffer want and hunger, but those who seek the Lord lack no good thing.
I can see how that in the midst of a really dark time, I can see how that just spoke straight to what was that line? This poor soul cries out to the Lord.
Lovely way these particular translators have rendered that line.
Mhm.
It's very
Yeah.
nice.
And there's a real sort of balance in that psalm between every time the psalmist refers to himself, it's always about his weakness and his smallness. He's brokenhearted, he's crushed in spirit. You know, everything about it is making very clear that he is speaking from a place of huge pain and a really difficult season of life. And yet every time he refers to God, it's every time he talks about God, it's in terms of he's near to the brokenhearted. He delivers you. He redeems you. You know, the contrast between his weakness and God's strength is in every little verse.
It's lovely, honest, isn't it? Just honest with the psalm, isn't it? It's really lovely to have that chance to feel and say those things.
So brilliant, David. Thank you for that. That was just incredible. Yeah.